So I want to make sure this is clear because I know in the beginning when I first started J Juice and I was exploring Candida and what Candida was because that was the focus at the time during my rollout, I made the very direct correlation that Candida caused cancer. Now, it may have an indirect relationship to someone's cancer because when you have an overproduction of anything in your microbiome, it'll cause a chain reaction of events that will cause more proteins that will then have an overaccumulation of life usurping everything. But when you think about infection, okay, infection can take into account bacterial infections, microbial infections, fungal infections, bacterial infection, parasite infections, protozoa infections. There's no such thing as protein infections, okay? Infection has to do with an overabundance of some constituent or all constituents in your microbiome. And so then when you have growths in your body that you want to go and check to see if it's cancerous, it's based upon all the different imbalances in your microbiome. And then that triggers your biochemistry to overproduce. It triggers your prostaglandins to overproduce and create more life than needs to be, a more condensed life in any one area, which then cause blockages and then, yes, could replicate very fast. And that's why they recommend the chemotherapy, the cannabis oil, the starvation, but that also starves your cells. So in the holistic world, people make these very quick, direct correlations that Candida causes cancer. Candida is a fungal infection. Any infection that gets out of control where then you are diagnosed with cancer is actually a chain reaction of events that cause then proteins to produce so rapidly and usurp the energy in that area, and then the vital organs or different systems get compromised and then shut down because the energy wasn't distributed equally. That's what cancer is an unequal distribution of energy, of life forms, of energy sources. Hey, Gail. So when someone, when you see in the holistic world, they're saying, oh yeah, Candida is a fungus, or cancer is a fungus. No, it's not. Cancer is not a fungus. That's the holistic world trying to oversimplify very complicated chain reaction processes that have to do with so many entities working off each other. Okay, so in my book, I compartmentalize the microbiome so you understand in a very step-by-step process that your microbiome is made up of viruses, parasites, protozoa, protein, fungus, and bacteria. That's 6 things that have to work together symbiotically. You have an imbalance in one, you will have a chain reaction of imbalances in every single one of those things. So when you have cancer, it's not going to be just because of the fungus. It's not going to be just because of the parasites. It's a whole host of things that are affecting your biochemistry, affecting how your hormones get distributed, and then what switches get turned on and off based upon even the antibodies that are being induced because of the overaccumulation. And now you're a mess. Now you have systems fighting each other. Okay? And so that's why in the beginning I started off with Candida, with fungus. And then I started graduating, realizing that everything is connected. And then I realized with this book that your microbiome, okay, has to be balanced correctly. But then taking the antibiotics, then doing the fasting, then taking all the different anti-parasitics, anti-inflammatories, antifungals, all the different antibacterials, the antivirals, all contribute to the degradation and the accelerated disintegration process, which is basically the death trajectory. Because you're systematically killing off the life of your microbiome, which is everywhere. And so cancer is just, like I said, an unequal distribution of energy that now is so condensed in one area that it usurps the life. Just like, when you have too many sheep with a little bit of grass and there is not enough predators to go kill off the sheep to allow the grass to grow. That's like a cancer, because now the sheep ate all the grass, there's no more grass, then the sheep start dying because there's no more grass because they have too many sheep. So then you have to have a predator come in and keep the balance in the sheep to allow the grass to grow. So it's a chain reaction. It's your hierarchy. It's a circle of freaking life. Okay? So the holistic allopathic world forget the circle of life. They forget that your microbiome is directly correlative to the environment out there, that there has to be a balance. And so that's what biotech and holistic people do, is they go in and try to synthetically, with intention, keep balance instead of allowing the right chemistry to balance out and have cell regeneration, have the excess being released happen simultaneously, and be able to take different scenarios like life and death and have them work off each other to where you don't die. So you can have a cell regeneration and have then a de-evolution of a cell that is malfunction, and release that cell and then regrow and redistribute the correct programming in your body. So yeah, and so that happens, in the wild. If you didn't have man manipulating the environment, the wild would then be able to figure out how to keep the balance of circle of life. Okay, just like the zebras and the lions and the Kalahari Desert and all of that, there's a balance. There's definitely a balance. And so that's exactly what happens in your microbiome, and that's what cancer is a major imbalance in the proteins, and then those proteins that are also creating cells that are formulating into tumors or into growths or into life, is now usurping the energy in that area, causing then a major disturbance. And if a person dies from cancer because they're that far gone, their vital organs have been usurped of the energy because of those cancer cells that were not able to be redistributed correctly, and then the body also upgrade to be able to handle that growth, that life. Because yes, life is great. Tumors is just life. Bone spurs are just life, but it's an imbalanced distribution of bone minerals. Okay, bone spurs, is bone regeneration. So people think like, I have a bone spur, which yes, when you have a bone spur and you're not evolving and adapting correctly, you're going to have an enormous amount of growth of minerals in one area. You'll have tumors in another area. You'll have skin tags and growths and warts and all these different life forms around your body. You're getting lanced off. Like when you see, animals out there in the wild that have all these different growths, they have an imbalance in their system. Like when you see a dog, I've seen dogs that are aging where they have growths on their eyes, they have skin tags, all over their body. And that's because there's an imbalance in the biochemistry. There's a disturbance in their biochemistry, and you haven't recalibrated and balanced out their body correctly. So they have all these weird growths. They have cancer, they have tumors, and then people are like, I gotta put my dog down because they're dying, they're miserable. Well, yeah, because you haven't taken care of your animal correctly. You haven't given them the right balance of chemistry so they can redistribute that energy to make it more balanced, so that way all their systems are working together. Not just 50% of the systems are working somewhat okay, but the other half is not, which means that the other 50% really isn't working okay. It's just getting by. Okay? Just getting by. So, if you want to prolong and potentially tap into indefinite life for your animal and for you, you have to know how to redistribute the energy correctly, and that's bringing in the right chemistry and not undermining the life process by using anti-life protocols like anti-inflammatories, antibiotics, detoxes, cannabis oil, chemotherapy, all of that crap, because that is anti-life. That takes years off your life. You realize that your microbiome, which is the viruses, the parasites, the protozoa, the proteins, the fungus, and the bacteria, they're all able to adapt to an environment, but you have to give it the right conditions to do that. And if you don't give the right conditions and you're going in synthetically and removing things and, you know, cutting part of your stomach out so you don't eat as much, and now you're not getting enough nutrition, so now you're starving. How is your microbiome going to adapt to an environment when it can't even absorb the nutrition that it has available to it? That you've made it available, you made food available, but you can't even process that food because you've got a gastric bypass, or you've taken out your gallbladder, or you've taken out, you know, your tonsils, or you've taken out your, what is that? Your appendix. That's all part of your digestive system. When you start taking out organs and taking out systems in your body, taking out flesh, you know, you are now just systematically depleting yourself. And then when you have pain in that area because the body now wants to regrow those organs or regrow those things, then you're taking antibiotics to stop the growth, to stop the evolution. And so when they do that to children, then the children grow in a really cattywampus way, and they will be fraught with issues as they get older because they don't have all of their systems, their organs. Because people don't understand that symptoms are evolution and you have to support it correctly, or else that kid's going to grow up in a crooked way. And then their lifespan is going to be cut short because they won't have what it takes to adapt to the environment. And then people wonder why we have so much, you know, childhood diseases. Why kids are so sensitive to the environment. Because they don't have now the capacity to adapt at a higher level. So anyways, that's it. Bye.